Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Hope everyone is having a lovely morning or evening wherever you're based. Thank you all so much for joining today's session, Mastering Virtual Sales Calls with Conversational Intelligence. In the next 45 minutes, my colleagues at Aviso will be discussing with you common pitfalls that sales teams face while selling virtually or from home, and ways that you can address these issues by using AI. Before I continue any further, let me introduce you to today's speakers. My name is Neha, and I'll be your session host today. I work on the marketing team here at Aviso, and I'm very excited to be here with you all. Next up, we have Amit Pandey, who is Aviso's Chief Marketing Officer and also our Head of Strategy. He's been in the AI for sales space for approximately 5 years and has a career rich in various go-to-market and product roles. Amit will be spending the first 10 to 15 minutes of today's session giving you some background about Aviso and also context for why we believe conversational intelligence is an absolute game changer for virtual selling. My colleague Alan Lewis is a solutions engineer and product expert here at Aviso. Alan has a seasoned career in the software industry, and he'll be doing the main part of today's session, which will feature a deep dive into how you can use AI conversational intelligence to enable selling from home with increased success. Before I hand the mic to Amit, I have a few quick housekeeping items to cover about this presentation and the webinar platform. Firstly, we will be doing a Q&A at the end of today's session. You could submit your questions in the question panel on the bottom right of your screen. If we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we'll be sure to follow up with you afterwards via email. Also, a few other Aviso team members will be on the line today. Ravi, our head of product, and Alan Lewis, who I just introduced, will be doing the answering part of the Q&A. Next, today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session. It'll be accessible via a follow-up email that we'll be sending to you next week. Lastly, we will be raffling off today's attendees in a giveaway for a 1-year subscription to Masterclass. Make sure you stay tuned till the end when we will be announcing the winner. Amit, over to you.
Thanks, Neha. Really looking forward to seeing who wins the Masterclass subscription. There is some, amazing presenters and educators on Masterclass, so I'm hoping that we will have that surprise. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone who's joining. We're seeing a lot of attendees that have just joined in the last 30 to 60 seconds. So welcome again to this webinar on how you can apply conversational intelligence to master virtual selling. What I'm going to do in the next 10 minutes is tell you a little bit about where conversational intelligence fits in within the larger picture of revenue intelligence and how Aviso helps customers across the world and teams such as yours to achieve its goals. I'll start with our vision. We have been applying predictive machine learning to the world of sales since the company originally started in 2014. And over that period, we've gone from serving the needs of some of the circles that you see here on the slide to practically every key role that a revenue team is made out of. And our humble goal is to be a GPS like your Google Maps or Waze, or a compass like the compasses of the 16th, 17th century, to ultimately help teams not get lost in CRM, but to get that direction and guidance using artificial intelligence and ultimately close more business. So for CROs and chief financial officers who use Aviso, they're able to get a bird's eye view of their business. For operations teams, they're able to get forecasting clarity and visibility like no other player in the market. And most importantly, for those field reps who are now virtual sales reps or inside sales teams, we provide specific kinds of guidance to help you, close more deals. We've been doing this now for the last several years, and we work across industries, across different kinds of verticals and geographies. And the most important thing about this slide is the numbers at the top. We are the only time series database with an auto machine learning platform that has been doing this for 6 years at scale, including some of our largest Fortune 500 customers, which are running around $8 to $10 billion businesses on top of Aviso. But today we're here not to talk about Aviso. We're here to talk about where the market is going. And so what I'd like to share with you very briefly before I jump into conversational intelligence is that we're in a completely new era since COVID started. And you're probably feeling it in your business as much as we've certainly felt it in our business since last February and March. And one of the things that's really happened in the last few months is that the majority of players in the market are now waking up to this reality that what customers want is not more CRM and not more isolated point tools that only solve one slice of the revenue puzzle. What customers are asking for more and more that we're seeing with our customer base is tools that bring it all together. Aviso is the only AI platform in the market that stretches all the way from a 98% or higher accurate forecast driven by AI to deal intelligence, people intelligence, and other forms of intelligence you need across the revenue cycle, including conversation intelligence, plus with its own embedded collaboration layer. So think about the best of tools like Slack, Zoom, and others, or even the original vision of Chatter, which is what Salesforce acquired Slack for recently. We've been doing this from before the pandemic time, and we're really happy to see partners and players in the marketplace, ranging from Salesforce to Chorus and Gong, now embracing this idea that it's not enough to simply do things like call recordings on one side and then do collaboration on the other side. We got to bring it all together, and that's our vision: is to one, bring it all together in an integrated all-in-one revenue workspace for you, and also do it at a price point that you're not paying another arm and a leg on top of whatever you're paying for your CRM systems today. So that's really the journey we've been on and the journey that we are going to be on in coming years. Next, I'd like to briefly talk about what changed in virtual selling and where conversational intelligence fits in. The clock that I'm showing you is a clock that was true for a good 20 years, right? We spent a couple of hours driving to work, driving to customers, driving to meet our colleagues, did different kinds of customer work, whether it was demos, presentations, statements of work. And in the middle of the day and in the margins of the day, we updated Salesforce or one of the 645 CRM systems that you see on G2 Crowd. This changed dramatically after COVID. We still had those responsibilities from earlier, but except we started going from endless Zoom calls to endless Cisco Webex meeting calls, and while continuing to do all of this work, and the burden this has caused on sales teams is tremendous. You don't have to just take my word for it, or just your or my personal experience. We did an exhaustive study last year in fall, which is available through our website for free. It was the Aviso State of Virtual Selling Survey, where we learned some really interesting things from the hundreds of sales leaders, sales managers, and reps we surveyed. One, we learned that reps are still missing quota. 1 out of 2 reps is still missing quota. During the pandemic, it's gotten a little worse, in fact, because the pre-pandemic and post-pandemic pipelines have been a little different in quality. But more than anything else, reps and managers are both overwhelmed as never before. And we really believe that conversational intelligence, when it is done right and in the context of your overall revenue cycle versus just through call recordings, can change the odds on all of these things. It can help more of your reps beat quota, help them be on track, not get overwhelmed, improve morale, and also help managers coach a lot better. So I'm going to just give you a brief flavor of how we can be prepared not just for 2021, but the next many years when virtual selling will become more and more the mainstream way in which $1 million deals or $10 million deals are closed, and you certainly want to be ahead of that challenge. So specifically, there are 3 areas I'll cover here that tie back to the roles that I mentioned previously. The first thing that I'll point out is on the right. Conversational intelligence can help sales managers in a very different way to help coach their teams better. This isn't just about helping them with what's going on in their calls at a macro level. It's about what's going on at these calls at a minute by minute level. And our role model here is in the same way that sports coaches do play-by-play analysis to help the best players in the world become even better. That is what conversational intelligence can help sales managers do, is to give a very different level of coaching, which is based on actual deal behaviors and very specifically ties to areas of improvement that move deals forward versus more general kinds of coaching advice. From a deal intelligence perspective, you're obviously capturing some of your deal data in your CRM, deal stages, deal sizes, key sponsors and such. But what's really happening inside of these virtual deal calls is not going to be clear to you until you actually use conversational intelligence. So what we're finding with our customers who started using this technology now, who were already using our forecasting and other technologies, is that they're able to find out the weakest link in the chain. They're able to find out what is happening inside of these deal calls early in the cycle, not just early in the sales cycle, but early in the renewal cycle as well. And this is providing an unprecedented level of intelligence to even either challenge or validate the quality of the forecast and the quality of the deal itself. And then one of the most interesting, what started off as a secondary benefit but has become a primary benefit now, is messaging intelligence. And this applies to customer success teams, marketing teams, and other teams that are always looking to figure out if the language that they're using is working with customers. Well, what better way than to hear from customers themselves what kind of language they resonate with? And so as we've used this even within Aviso, within our own product teams, when we've seen our customers use it, it's becoming clear that you can take the same concepts of conversation intelligence that move deals forward and that help managers with coaching and actually move it back into your product cycle so that your product teams aren't just doing things like surveys or basic, like ethnographies. They're hearing live from these prospects and customers on how they're responding to your actual product. Now, Aviso's specific version of this, which we will be showing you in a live demo in the next couple of minutes, does a couple of things to address these specific areas of intelligence that I mentioned. The first, of course, is keywords. So, if you think about the word pricing, if you think about competitor keyword mentions, or you think about phrases like proposals, words like probably, these are all different words that you want to learn about how the usage of these words early in a deal cycle or later in a deal cycle affects the outcome of your deals. If your sales reps are hearing about proposals or about pricing in the last 20 minutes of a call versus the first 15 minutes of a call, does that change deal outcomes? That's what Aviso Conversation Intelligence can help you at the most basic level. We also generate smart transcripts. This is natural language programming generated transcripts that are available in PDF form, in keyword form. And what we're able to highlight is not just what's happening within one given call, but imagine a sequence of calls, over 20 calls that happen in a deal cycle or with external customers, or imagine your weekly forecast call or your monthly forecast call also recorded and running through the same transcription. The level of truth that you're able to get to through these smart transcripts is quite unprecedented. And one thing I'll highlight here is that you can use Aviso's own embedded virtual meeting technology for this. We have our own rich audio video meeting technology. You can think of it as Zoom embedded in our application, but we also work very seamlessly with your recordings from GoToMeeting, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or any other favorite tool that you use. We've always believed in being Switzerland as a platform, and I think that's something we've brought to our smart transcripts as well. And then finally, sentiment analysis. This is a little bit more advanced. We look at things like hyperbole, we look at things like valence, and a lot of these other concepts to understand if the positive or negative sentiment is changing over time and how it's changing. And these are some of the things that we'll show you at a high level. And you'll hear from Neha towards the end of our webinar that we're also running a free trial right now for for select customers, especially for smaller customers that are looking to just get started with artificial intelligence. And we'll be happy to help you with all three of these things. What I'd like to do next is quickly introduce my colleague Alan. I'm delighted that he's going to be sharing perspectives about the platform. Alan has joined us from Birmingham, Alabama. He is a seasoned veteran of the technology industry and works across both customer success and sales engineering efforts, and has worked at several global leaders before getting to Aviso, including companies like BMC, helping drive business transformation. Alan, I'm going to move it to the next slide for you to talk about the platform, and really looking forward to your demo.
Yes, thank you. Glad everybody's here. So let's first talk a little bit about what Aviso does. So there's a number of tools that are on the market that do specialized things, essentially silos of data and or operations. So I think about most any business activity as part of a business process. And it's no different in the case of sales. And what we're trying to do at Aviso very successfully is tie together all of the activities that are associated with the sales motion of any particular opportunity or deal our customers might work. Among those is CRM data. We also integrate public data. I won't focus on that very much, but essentially what we've done is we've taken general economic data, sector data, and so forth, and use that to provide a lens into how different parts of the economy are going to work. The best example of that at the moment is COVID-19. So essentially dark swan events, black swan events. And then forecast calls and deal reviews. These are primarily internal activities that our customers execute, but certainly have a lot of rich data and information about what might be the next best action for a particular deal. The fourth one is sales rep activity. What we do is mine email and calendar and try to understand who the most effective proponents in our customers' team is. So I'll show you a little bit about that. The next one is customer data and other history. So what other data exists about the customer in terms of other data sources. So this may be ERP, it may be a ticketing system, it may be other things that are going to provide us insight into churn, difficulties that a particular customer is having. And then the sixth one here, we orient everything around what we call digital war rooms. And these digital war rooms are essentially locations and areas where you can accomplish certain objectives associated with your sales process. So the most common one that folks would think about would be forecasting. But we also have rooms for coaching, deal rooms, and then we also have collaboration rooms, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then finally, we have customer calls, which obviously is the focus of this webinar. So we'll talk about the fact that we record and transcribe calls, and we capture the kinds of information that Mitt was just talking about. So with that, I'll start my demo. Thank you. And so initially, I'm going to provide a little bit of background so that you have context of how we think about conversational intelligence. So historically, Aviso has been a forecasting tool, but as I indicated on the previous slide, what we want to do is really integrate the entire sales process and help sellers with what it is that they're trying to do, and use AI to provide insights and other direction or guidance into what they might want to do. So some of the things that are unique about Aviso is that we can look at your business in a number of different ways. In this case, I've got an Americas team. I've also got Canada, Latin America, USA team. So essentially a geographical look at how you're selling. We can also do things by partner. We can also do things by product. In this case, cloud, on-prem, services, et cetera. Or we could look at your opportunities in terms of types of business. So existing business, new business, renewals. So that's unique in the industry and something that Aviso prides itself on. So given the hierarchy we've got here, everybody in that hierarchy would have a dashboard similar to this. Essentially, it provides insight into a particular region in this case, or even if I drill further down, you can find individual reps. And so what we're doing here is providing essentially a dashboard of the business that different individuals are responsible for. Here we're integrating a number of different data sources at the glass. We've got most likely opportunities from the CRM system. We've got our own deal level forecasting process that Aviso supports. Essentially, we're replacing the spreadsheets that almost all of our customers used in terms of calling the forecast at various levels within the hierarchy. And we automate that and facilitate history and understanding of what's going on with that. Book business may come from an ERP or some other billing system, and then what kind of pipeline exists for this particular part of the hierarchy. We also have some information about what's changed, but what I want to point out is how we use some of our AI algorithms. So in this case, we've got adaptive metrics. We've got things broken down from Americas to the 3 regions that are part of that. And we can talk about pipeline generated. So average selling price, closing this quarter, closing next quarter, closing in future quarters, et cetera. We also have coverage ratio calculations, our algorithms. We also have performance. So one of the ways that we look at things from a bottoms up perspective in a very simplistic manner is, are you on track to close a particular deal? And out of that, we generate what we call an Aviso win score, which is the probability of a particular deal closing in this quarter. And so this is a metric that would be used to do that. So if the deal is older than 76 days, then it may be in trouble, in a very simplistic example. Some insight into how things are breaking down by product, and then same kind of thing for renewals. So with that, I'll move over. We obviously provide forecasting. We obviously provide some trend information, also using AI analytics, and then some analytical reporting and so forth. And we won't cover that in this particular webinar, but if you're so interested, we could certainly do that. I'm going to skip over to what we call our deal tab. And here we essentially have what we call the deal grid, and it's a list of deals that are being executed within the Americas geo. And what we do is we break things down in terms of deals in the forecast, the top 2 blocks, and the bottom 2 blocks are not in forecast. And what we do is essentially categorize all the opportunities. The ones where people and AI agree are deals in focus. The ones where AI is flagging as potential problem, we call at risk. Given, and then we've got upside deals where the sellers may have an opportunity to close them even though they don't have them in commit for this quarter. We also have the ability to provide insight into pull-in deals. So I'm going to skip into this VoIPA deal, and this is what we call a deal card. So the deal card provides some overhead information about or header information about a particular deal, and then all the CRM fields that a particular seller would need to update, we write back to CRM in real time. And then we've got a methodology. In this case, we're depicting MedPick, but our customers have proprietary internal sales methodologies as well as other common methodologies, and we incorporate that into our relationships diagram, which I'll show in a minute. So I'm going to skip over the history and relationships tabs and go directly to the deal room to talk about really how we think about a deal and what we provide to users of our system. So we have this notion of a deal room. It's essentially a chronological history of everything that's gone on with the deal. So we have the ability to message each other within the deal room. We can upload files, we can create to-dos, we can, the deal room has an email address, so you can put emails in here. And then obviously the focus of today is scheduling calls and recording those. So we provide either a meet now functionality or a schedule meet. In the case of schedule meet, we've got copy text for the bottom of the body of the invite that you can include in your calendar app, Google Calendar or Outlook, whatever it is that you're using. And then you've also got a list of room members. Now, for a deal room, you would typically, you'd only have licensed Aviso users, typically those that are aligned with the deal. But for a call, you can invite anybody you might want to be part of that call. And then when you conduct the call, you're going to generate a recording, which you can play here.
So I'm at
and I'll skip down here to a little part of the call
custom views
and play it.
and custom looks at your forecast.
It is one question on just that. What you just showed. This is brilliant. Is in the drop down you just show where.
So you can listen to the call. Obviously, see the video that's associated with the call. We've got speakers labeled here, and then based on the call, we've got some sentiment indicators where we're basically providing insight into positive sentences versus negative sentences. And then from the transcription, we extract keywords. So in this case, these are keywords that were most common or important in the call. Obviously, this was a call about opportunity and forecasting and pipeline. And you can click on those particular words and see those in the transcript and then click in here and go directly to that part of the recording if you're so inclined to listen to it. You can also bookmark it, which brings it over to the highlights section, and you can comment on it. The second types of keywords that we provide, which is proprietary to Aviso, is what we call topic keyword combinations. And what we're looking for is a topic, in this case, objection, and we're looking for the word objection. We're looking for words that may be similar to or evoke the emotion of objection. So in this case, we found concerned a number of times. And then intent, awareness, discovery. The easiest way to think about this is probably timing. So timing is obviously something related to the calendar, today, tomorrow, next week, last week, etc. So these are the things we're capturing here. We can also customize the detection of keywords based on competitors or products. And this is very important to our customers because they want to be able to understand who they may be competing against, but also what products their customers or the attendees of a particular call are most interested in. Same thing here. You can click on the keyword and find that in the transcript, and then obviously play it if that's what you want to do.
It's very powerful.
So the way that we provide snippets of a particular call is through a process that we call crop and share. So you can find a particular area of a call where there's some questions or some things that you want to focus on, and you can share this with your colleagues. So you can click crop and next. You can send it to Mike and have him comment on it, or you may have a solution engineer or a product development room, and you would use one of our collaboration rooms to send the clip to the body of experts that you've got, and they would be able to answer that. You can type in, whatever that might point out what it is that you're really looking for, and so forth. So you send that, and on the other end, we that individual or that person receives a snippet. And let me get back to the deal room here. And this is an example of one, and then you can play that particular recording. So that gives you a pretty good overview of how we do things with conversation intelligence at Aviso. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to a couple of things that I skipped over, which was the history and relationships tabs here. So in history, we have a time series database within Aviso that allows us to record how things changes. So in this case, we've got a close date that continually is pushing out, and the way that we generate the win score, in this case, we've assigned 28 to VoIPA. We calculate this through our proprietary algorithms. But one of the reasons that the score is declining is because we've pushed out the close date so many times. That may be rather obvious, but also what we're trying to do here is compare a model that we've assembled with our algorithms against this particular deal. And remember earlier I talked about an easy metric may be that, you know, we close 95% of our deals when the total deal cycle is 45 days or less, or 67 days or less. That's really what this is trying to say, is that you're in a stage too long, and 95% of winners are in this stage 21 days versus 45 days. And then from an overall perspective, we talk about the win probability of this deal closing in this quarter is 28% versus the comparable deals that we've compared this deal with from a historical basis would be 58%. We also have insights in terms of the predicted close date versus what the seller may think it's going to close in. And then we've got relationship insights that I'm going to show next. So with relationship insights, we essentially pick up email and calendar and grade the engagement. So in this particular case, we're grading the entire account. And in this case, it's an engagement grade of C. We've got 8 contacts and 323 interactions. So what we do is not measure the busyness of emails and calendar invites going back and forth, but the timing of them and the associated activity that spawns from a meeting or an email. So in this case, we can also get an engagement grade for every member of the opportunity team. In this case, we're selecting the leader, and she has a C+ engagement. But we can also look at things from a customer perspective, where who is the champion from the customer side. In this case, we can show a B+ engagement for Leo. So that's a quick overview of what Aviso is, how we use algorithms to provide insight to our users and our customers, obviously, and how we integrate the conversational intelligence into that. What I'm going to do now, I just want to skip over, and we have this notion of digital war rooms, and what I showed was a deal room, this particular deal. We also have forecast rooms, which I talked about. We also have coaching rooms, one-to-one or a coaching room in this case. All of these, and then the last one is a collaboration room that I'll skip over to here. So, sorry, that was the snippet. Skip over to here. So the reason that I wanted to come here was because we've got some calls that were recorded. We're using the collaboration in this case to work directly with a customer. So for this particular invite, we've got external users that that are members of this room, and we can invite them to a call as well as provide two-way communication with our customers. So when I spin up a customer with Aviso, I create a collaboration room between that customer and Aviso, and that's how I communicate with all of the users in terms of mentoring, training, as well as creation of what we call office hours to help their onboarding process and engagement with Aviso to get the most out of it. And then with all these calls, we also capture a number of call attributes like talk ratio, question rate, topics duration, etc. And these are very insightful, particularly for coaching aspects and for discussion, typically in forecast calls. So what's working, what's not working, and how we can bring everybody up to the same level of performance and effectivity as our best sellers. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton back to Neha, and got a couple of slides that I'm going to talk to, and then we'll continue with the webinar. So just in summation, we've got, you know, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of tools that capture some portion of the sales process. Aviso doesn't really believe that that's very impactful because you're only capturing essentially part of the story. And so what we do is provide essentially a 360 view of all the activities that our customers have with their customers, and conversational intelligence is just part of that. So next slide, please. And then just to recap the various capabilities of Aviso, we've focused on conversational intelligence in this call. I've touched on all of the other three, but just to reinforce, we provide state-of-the-art forecasting capabilities, both from a bottom-up and top-down perspective. We can handle a number of complex and custom hierarchies. This allows our customers to look at their business in a number of different ways and to understand where they're being successful and where they may have some challenges. The lower left corner, guided pipeline and deal management. I've shown you a little bit about what we do with deals and how we provide insight about a particular deal with our Aviso score, as well as the insights that you saw within the deal room that I shared with you for VoIPA. And then the last one is the guided go-to-market team coaching. So we talked about the coaching room, but we also have coaching dashboards and nudges that typically you'd receive over your mobile device. Aviso also has a mobile app. And then the activity intelligence, which I briefly showed you in terms of what's happening with the deal and why is it scoring better or not as well as its comparative deals. So with that, I'll pass the webinar back to Neha, and we'll see who wins the prizes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. So before we go into the Q&A, I'd just like to take a quick moment to direct you all to our website, where you can find links to some articles and offerings you may find of interest after this webinar. For example, as Amit mentioned earlier, we are currently running a 90-day free trial of the Aviso platform specifically for webinar attendees. And we'll be sharing the link to sign up with you in our post-webinar follow-up, so do look out for that. All right, so I'd like to announce the giveaway winner now, and congrats to Matt. You won a 1-year subscription to Masterclass. We will be reaching out to you after the webinar with more information via email. Congrats again. Great, so let's open up the Q&A right now. As a reminder, if you have any last questions, just input them into the question box on the bottom right of your webinar screen. And I've been collecting questions throughout the chat box and from my one-on-one channels, and so let's get started. The first question is for Alan, and it is, can you run the AI transcription and keyword analysis on pre-recorded calls from other tools, for example, Zoom?
Yes, so a couple of different ways that Aviso does that. Obviously, we've got the embedded call management, recording, and transcription capabilities. We also integrate to tools like Zoom, WebEx, and Teams, and seamlessly pick up the calls directly from them. So what I showed you from a transcription perspective, you can do that. You can also record things into an MP4 format, and there's an upload button that's part of any of the rooms, the deal room, the coaching room, the forecast rooms, or the collaboration rooms. And when you upload that, we generate the very same kind of content. So we'll show the recording, we'll create the transcript, and we'll provide the keywords and topic keyword combinations that I described during the webinar.
Awesome, thank you, Alan. Our next question I'm going to direct at Ravi, and it's, do you have any customer or personal anecdotes of when conversational intelligence helped in a virtual selling setting?
Yeah, thanks, Neha. Actually, this is a great question. In the past year, with everything that's going on, there has been a significant uptake in our customers looking for a single pane of glass, where they can see all aspects of a deal, whether it's CRM, AI insights, insight from your email calendar, and internal, external calls in a single place. So we had an enterprise customer in the technology space that uses Aviso's AI-driven digital deal rooms. So they actually were running their forecast calls and the deal review calls in Aviso, and there was a transcription and a sentiment analysis done on one of these calls, and that indicated that based on the product mix that was there in the opportunity, there was a need for a specific sales engineer that had expertise in that combination of products. So Aviso's AI picked up on that and recommended a sales engineer that should have been part of that deal room. That was not, because in that particular sales engineer had worked on a similar opportunity in the past and had closed the deal. So this was a pretty sweet insight for the customer, because this was something they are looking for. But given the fact that Aviso can combine data from multiple sources, we are able to actually pinpoint a key factor that helped them close the deal. So this was one of the several cases that I can think of where using conversational intelligence helped the customer.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That was very interesting. Our next question is going to say for both Ravi and Alan, maybe Alan, you can answer it first. And it's, what are your tips for selling virtually or at home beyond conversational intelligence?
So obviously, conversational intelligence is a big aid, because it relieves the burden of trying to take notes and run a call at the same time. But the relationship intelligence that I showed you, the relationships diagram that I showed you, really helps you to quantify how you're doing on a particular deal, and maybe resources or contacts that you're not leveraging with that relationship diagram. So the relationship diagram shows all of the activity that's related to that account. So you may find that particularly in larger organizations, that one of your colleagues is talking to somebody that may be helpful to you in your deal. The relationship diagram shows you that graphically, and you can work with your colleague to build a better relationship and win your deal.
Yeah. So I think one more thing I'll add is, again, I'll reiterate that being able to, the important thing is being able to increase collaboration and not working in silos. And what Alan illustrated in the demo is that you can actually have all the information in one place. So I would say that is one thing, irrespective of tool, that you should focus on, which is making sure that you are touching across the organization when you're working on any opportunity.
Great. Thank you both for answering that. Our next question, I'm going to direct at Ravi, and it's, how does capturing sentiment work behind the scenes or on a more technical level?
Yeah, so we actually have an NLP engine that actually analyzes the recording of any calls for keyword and sentiment. And one thing that we also do is that we have a repository of this data, and then we are able to actually map that against a specific customers' opportunities in the past. So for example, the example I gave you of having conversation around an opportunity that had products in it. So things like that are something that we use our time series database that has history of an opportunity, overlay that with the sentiment analysis. So we are able to analyze both for the actual keywords. So if you're talking about product, as well as the sentiment in the call as well. So so you can actually see if you have a positive or negative sentiment on the opportunity. And finally, we bring this all together as part of a consolidated view that the seller sees.
Perfect. Thank you, Ravi. So our last question, since we're running out of time, is for Amit, and it's just, if someone is trying to get started on their conversational intelligence journey, how and where would they begin?
I would say that, one of the things we've learned, especially with the customers that have used Aviso now almost for 6 years. So to give you an example, some of our customers like, Ring Central and others, they've been with us for almost 6 years, 24 quarters. So AI is being used in the market for different parts of the revenue cycle for a lot longer than we realize. Just like Google's autocomplete on your Gmail, it wasn't very clear that what you're using behind the scenes is AI. And so I would certainly say that it's not too late to get started on this journey with applying AI for conversational intelligence or more broadly revenue intelligence today, because a lot more people out there are using this flavor of AI than than you might think. Now, specifically with regards to sandboxing your conversational intelligence journey, if you've never done anything like this, is to really start with your goal in mind. So is your goal to get a better visibility into what's happening inside of those calls, because you really just don't know what the truth is about the sales calls with customers outside of what salespeople are reporting? Or is it that you have been listening into those calls, but you just have qualitative data? You've just never quantified that data. So I would sort of give you a three-step formula to get started. One is identify a specific variable that you're looking to optimize. If that variable is that you want to turn your middle 50% performers into your top 20% performers, and you want to do that through better coaching, then you've identified one area to optimize. Second, identify bit more of a frontier manager and a frontier team in your organization, especially if you have a larger sales organization, which is either they're doing well and they love using data to improve their process, or they're not doing well at all. They're just not able to close deals, and just shine the torch of conversational intelligence on their process. Even if you run it for 2 weeks, you'll start seeing results immediately. So that would be sort of my third step, is to first just apply conversational intelligence into about a dozen calls. And you'll immediately start seeing some of the results that will really surprise you. For example, we've found that when you apply conversational intelligence and prospects start talking about bringing other participants into the meeting, then that's actually a very positive sign in some contexts, because it means that you're now starting to get access to the real decision makers. And in future meetings, you'll now have an opportunity to pitch to those decision makers, versus when someone just uses a lot of soft language and ultimately sort of cuts you off after a great call. Those are the surprises you're looking to avoid. The last thing I'll mention about this question about starting your journey with AI is that you really want to look at what different players in the market are providing very objectively. So for example, you want to investigate how quickly do the recordings and the analysis of these recordings become available. You'll find that there are a lot of players out there in the market that are providing your recordings 30 minutes to like a few hours after the actual recording is done. The cutting edge of this, which is where Aviso is focused on, is to provide insights into a meeting right after the meeting gets over, or ideally, even look at more real-time ways of giving feedback into what's happening inside of a meeting. We believe that what we are seeing today in the market with voice intelligence will stretch into video intelligence as well in the coming years, and we're certainly working on those things as well. And then the last thing I'll say is be very conscious of price. There are tools out there which cost you as much as your original CRM licenses, and we really believe that in order for conversational intelligence to be truly democratized, you want it as part of a larger platform. So we're seeing a lot of players and the customers in the market come to us now because we don't charge extra, like the way a lot of other tools do, where we just give one capability and charge you like $200 per user per month for it. We believe that you should be able to get more value for less, especially given the times we're in, so that then you can repurpose a lot of that extra capital into other more innovative efforts in the organization. So that's what I would say, is to start small. And if you reach out to us, if you're interested in doing this more, our colleagues like Alan and other members of Ravi's team would be happy to share with you best practices that we've seen within our customer base. But I encourage you to get started on your conversational intelligence journey now, or as you proceed into 2021, if you haven't yet done so in 2020.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amit. That was very helpful to hear your perspective on. So I think we are out of time for questions today, but if we didn't get a chance to get to yours, we will follow up via email with an answer from our team. And before we close, I'd just like to remind everyone again that the webinar recording will be available soon. We'll be emailing you the link, so keep an eye out for that. And with that, I'll say thank you all so much for joining our webinar, Mastering Virtual Sales Calls with Conversational Intelligence. I hope you all learned something today. And be sure to look out for our next session on our social media platforms and our website at aviso.com. Thank you.
Thank you.